Hi, my name is James. Welcome to King's Fine Woodworking. Springtime is 1 month away, and this is the perfect time to get started on producing your stuff for selling for summer. Today I'm going to show you the top 5 projects that sell every single year for summer. This is not just my top 5, this is top 5 of just about every woodworker that I know. Every one of these is something that I have a full, complete, detailed video for, and I'll put links to those in the description down below. We're going to start off with the Adirondack chair. There's available templates for it, and the templates really make things faster and easier. They're not required, of course. Just a set of plans is all you really need, but you cut the templates out, you trace the templates, and then basically you cut out the pieces. And that's where you have a lot of variability. You can start these projects or build these projects entirely with very little tools. You don't have to have a bandsaw. You don't have to have a CNC. Every one of these projects can be built with basic stuff: a jigsaw, circular saw, a drill, and even a block of sandpaper. You know, finishing it with a router isn't necessary because you could sand over the edges. There's a lot of things you can do to start. And I recommend that people do that. If you don't have very many tools, an excellent way to get into woodworking is to start building projects that you can build with the minimum number of tools. Each time you sell a project, take a portion of that money and set it aside. Then you could buy yourself nicer, newer tools. You get a bandsaw. You can even get a CNC machine. With a CNC machine, we can build 4 of these chairs a day, but you definitely don't have to start there. I promise you, with 40 bucks, you can go to a flea market or a garage sale and pick up the 3 or 4 used tools that you need to build one of these chairs or any one of the projects in this video. I know this because that's exactly how I started woodworking. I was very young, I didn't have hardly any money, and I had access to some used tools. And I didn't have everything I needed, but I bought a used jigsaw for $15. Now this was back in the 80s, so used jigsaw is going to cost you a little more today, but it doesn't have to cost much. After selling 4 chairs, I took my profits and I bought a bandsaw. If you sell 10 chairs today, you could buy a CNC machine. I absolutely made woodworking pay for itself from the very beginning. I never went out and bought expensive tools, things like that, thinking I would use these one day and save time to make money. I just built what I could build with the stuff I had. I took half my profits or 2/3 of my profits. I put that into new tools, and every time I did that, it just made my shop nicer and made my production faster. Yeah, it's a little bit slower to grow your woodworking business that way, but there's no risk, and you don't have to come up with any money out of pocket. You know, maybe 50 bucks, 40 bucks. Get a couple of basic things to start if you don't already have them, but the odds are you're watching this channel, you already have some stuff. You don't have to have a planer, you don't have to have a jointer, you don't have to have a bandsaw, you don't have to have a lot of the nice stuff that I have. Start basic, use your profits, and buy nicer tools. So there's a lot of springtime projects that I could show you that you could make money with and sell, but there is nothing more valuable than outdoor furniture. Probably chairs are at the top of that list, but outdoor furniture is something that universally everybody wants. Everybody wants a picnic table, everybody wants a bench, or everybody wants an Adirondack chair, or a patio table. They're really common. A lot of people buy them, and it's a really good seller. Spring is probably the best time to sell. You start in spring, you'll sell all through summer and into fall, but starting in spring is really the best way to kick this off. If you decide you like these projects, some of them or all of them, and you want to get the plans for these things, I have a link in the description below. We've put our plans on sale and a package. This is the first time in the 6 years on YouTube I've ever put plans on sale. I think our plans are a pretty solid value because everything I've researched, I've prototyped numerous times, I've tested markets with some of it, and I think our plans have a lot of value, so I've never put them on sale. But I do have a package which includes all of these things and several more, actually. There's a description if you go to look at the website what it is, but I'll put a link down below. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. Okay, so one more thing. There's a really good chance that some of you out there have probably bought one or more of these plans that are in this package. If you have, don't worry. What I'm going to do is, for anybody who's in that boat, is I'll substitute plan for plan, anything you want. Let's say you bought this chair, but you still want to get the package to help support us or to move your business forward, but you've already bought the chair. So the chair costs like $14.99 normally, but I'll let you swap that for any other plan that you want. After you buy the package, just let me know that you bought the package and that you had the plan before. We'll check it out and then tell me whatever plan you want, and I'll send that to you right away. And it doesn't matter what the plan is or how much it costs. If you decide you want our shed plan, which we sell for like $25, that's fine. I'll give that to you. I'll give you any plan that we have in exchange for any plan that's part of this that you already own. So you're not out any money, you're not spending money or wasting money by buying a plan twice. I'll always do it. If you bought 3 of these plans, I'll give you 3 of our other plans. All you have to do is just message me and let me know. I'd also like to mention one other thing. I want to give a shout out to our community group. We have a community group on Facebook. It's Kings Fine Woodworking Community, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. It's a group where I spend about 15 to 20 hours a week going in and answering questions, helping people out whenever I can, and it's filled with a variety of people. Everybody gets a chance to show off their work, what they've done. You can ask questions. There are several expert woodworkers in there. If you tag me in the question, I will always answer your questions or help you out. Whenever we find out about upcoming sales, I always post that in the community group, and I also write articles on various woodworking topics that are in there. So it's just kind of a good place to be and get associated with other woodworkers who are doing the same thing that you are. So again, there's a link to that in the description below. If you're on Facebook and if you're interested, check it out. It is a private group, so it's woodworkers only, so there's no junk, no advertising, nothing like that in there. All right, so I've talked an awful lot during the build of this chair here. My intention was actually just to say a couple of words and then kind of quickly go over the build process of the chair. But it looks like I talked too much again. All right, so we're basically, let's talk about this real briefly. The chair can be made of anything. A very common type of wood would be redwood or cedar, but a lot of people on the eastern part of the U.S. can't get a hold of redwood, and cedar right now is kind of really high. So there's a lot of other things you can use. Southern yellow pine is a good choice. You can use Douglas fir as long as you finish it really well with something. You can use pressure treated. I like pressure treated a lot. Cypress is a good wood. You can even use hardwoods like white oak. If you've got the money, you can put it together with teak. It's a very flexible plan, so a lot of different wood species and different thicknesses will work for it. One of the big advantages of this chair is it's so mobile, very easy to move around. It's on wheels. It's also very, very comfortable. It's ergonomic. There's compound curves in the back. It's the only chair like that out there anywhere for sale that I have seen. There are no Adirondacks like this. It's pretty unique. We did a lot of prototyping for it, and it's just immensely popular. So that's the chair, and now we're going to jump into the next project. This project is an outdoor patio table, and it's my take on the picnic table, basically. It's a dining type table that you would leave outside, and I'm actually building this one out of Douglas fir, so you can kind of see what this looks like when it's all done. And it's all made of dimensional lumber from the store, and here again, you don't need any special tools to get this thing built. It's sort of designed like a trestle table, a trestle style table. In fact, I've even had several members of our woodworking community and other people take this exact same design, build it out of oak, and they've turned it into their main dining table inside of their house. So it's a really pretty, elegant design, and it just looks great outside. So much nicer than your standard picnic table with the built-on benches that you see everybody have, and it doesn't take any more wood to do, but it's just really nice. You can make benches that go with it. The benches, I don't have any benches designed, but you can make benches of the exact same style as this. I will actually be building a set of benches a little bit later this year, and probably next month actually. But if you end up getting these plans, and the benches for this will be included. But a lot of people use other chairs at this table as well. So take a look at this build and see what you think. This is a really popular build, and probably second in popularity to the Adirondack chairs. These are the pieces that are called the cleats. They're going to go at the upper part of the leg, and the notch that I had put in the other ones, the one right there, that's the foot. That's the lower part of the leg. So the leg is going to go there, and then the ones that I cut up are going to go on either side of the leg. So we're sort of creating a mortise and tenon joint without having to go through, any chiseling or any real making of an actual mortise and tenon joint. But functionally, it's identical. So we always glue and screw everything. I recommend that for the chairs too. Our chairs, I didn't actually glue them because I knew they had to come apart at some point. So I did not glue them, but I would recommend every piece of outdoor furniture that you build, you both use glue and screws for maximum longevity of the wood. And if you have ugly knots or pieces like that, stuff you don't like, you can always turn that in or hide them in the middle boards of some of these things. And you can see there how we've kind of created a natural tenon for that leg to fit down in, right there. And there's going to be a pair of these, one on each side for the two legs. And once that's done, we need to sand the whole thing up. Now, a belt sander is something that you don't absolutely have to have, but I definitely recommend it. You can get used belt sanders as well, but a lot of this furniture needs to be sanded quickly, and a belt sander just really saves time. The routing is, of course, optional. It looks nice. If you don't have a router, I wouldn't worry about it. If you can get a used router, go for it, but if you don't have one, not really a big deal. All right, so we're going to go to the assembly of this table now. We'll just slide that all the way down, and you can see how this this design actually has a lot of strength to it. That's a full-length tenon, about a 5-inch tenon, 5-inch mortise there. And we've got screws. And this is the cleat that goes on top. The tabletop will sit on top of that. And when you build the mortise and tenon set up like this, it actually has a lot of strength. We make it, you're able to make it nice and tight really easily. And now we're going to glue up the top. So I want to space it. Obviously, whenever you buy dimensional lumber like this at the store, it's going to be warped. So after I clamp it up with the spacers, you see I'm tapping it flat. And once I put the cleats and everything on it, it'll stay flat. So it's hard to get wood that's already perfectly flat. So you have to kind of do it this way, force it into position, screw everything together, and then it'll stay in position after that. In fact, this table that I have is sitting out back. I'll show you a picture of it. You saw it at the very beginning too, but it's 3+ years old and it's still perfectly flat, no problem. Once it was built and screwed together, then it stayed nice and flat. We have a human clamp there holding down that leg, and this will be the stretcher that goes in between the two legs, and that's why this is called a trestle table. You see I have it spaced up just a little bit on a block there. We're going to pre-drill just the right size, and then I'm going to use these big screws. These are structural screws by GRK. They're very strong. They'll go in quite a ways into that stretcher, and we'll put 3 here. Kind of lock this this whole structure together. And of course we did use glue on the other side as well, but the bulk of that strength is going to come from the screws. Once that's all done, we can go ahead and take these out, and it's pretty much going to hold itself together. Now I can flip this around because it was the wrong way there. And now it's the right way because the whole table is upside down. I just had it the other way so I could put that stretcher on it. And then you see these cleats that I made for either side of the top cleat there. And these are going to go down into the tabletop and into the cleat of the leg. And they just get screwed both ways. They're also glued in place. That makes it very strong. And by being so wide, it gives the structure a lot of natural rack resistance. And then a wide stretcher also helps with a lot of natural rack resistance too. And remember, this video is just a real condensed version of this particular project and how it goes together. Each of these is only 6 or 7 minutes in this collection here, but on the actual video of each project, they're between half an hour and an hour. So I go into great detail on exactly how to do everything. So even if you have no woodworking experience or have never built a single thing in your life, you can absolutely build every single one of these projects. All right, so there it is. See, just by cutting off those corners, you have a really nice design. Here again, the routing is optional, but the routing does make the top look nice. In fact, after getting some hand tools like a circular saw, a jigsaw, some things like that, I think the next choice I would get is probably a router or a sander. Either one of those could come first. It doesn't really matter. You certainly don't have to have one of these Festool sanders. Just get a used DeWalt or even a Chinese no-name brand sander. It works just fine. And I am going to put the link to each of these videos in the description below. So there's the table. It's all finished, and it looks pretty nice. All right, so now let's jump into the next project. The next project is a kid's chair, and should you order templates, this is how they come. You'll simply unfold them, flatten it out a little bit, and cut them out, and you've got your paper templates ready to go. So the advantage of templates, they're not necessary actually. Let me explain this real quick. If everything would require a plan ordinarily. The plan has everything that you need, even all these curved pieces. Everything is exactly laid out in the plan. The problem is in the plan, it's not to scale. I do show each of these shapes on different pages of the plan, like the curved shapes, and they're sitting on a grid, which that grid is supposed to be a 1" by 1" grid. So you would scale that up by drawing a 1" by 1" grid on a piece of wood or a piece of poster board, and then you would follow the sketch from the small plan up into the full size, and that's called lofting. You're basically lofting a shape from the small size of the plan up to full size. I want you to notice that I actually cut that out and made that with the jigsaw, and that's how I'm going to do the next few of them here so that you can see that it works just as good. All right, so you would have to loft them, like I was saying, up to full size. Now, if you decide you don't want to do that, then for all of the curved pieces, you could actually get a set of templates. They're already done for you, and they're all absolutely perfect because they're computer drawn. And with that, you know, it's going to save time, probably 2 to 3 hours per project, and you know they're exact, so it's kind of beneficial. And should you actually go out and get our full set of plans, the Ultimate Collection, like I'm going to put the link for down below, it actually includes those. It includes the plan for every project and the template for every project. So you'll kind of have everything that you need to get going. The other cool thing about these projects is that all of them are designed to be built with just dimensional lumber that you can buy at the big box store. So most everybody has a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a Menards or something like that really close to them or fairly close to them, and they stock this type of lumber. Now they may not all have redwood or cedar, but they'll definitely have other types like southern yellow pine or Douglas fir or straight pine, spruce, things like that. But of course, a lot of them, especially more towards the western side of the country, will carry redwood and cedar. I know in Colorado they do carry both. So it just kind of depends on what you got there. And you know, sometimes the lumber there is not always straight. Just try to pick the straighter boards. And you can see there, that's the whole set of pieces that's already cut out and ready to go for the child's Adirondack chair. So it's kind of a very similar design. It uses full-size lumber, though. You don't have to scale it down in thickness or anything. And it assembles very similar to the actual full-size chair. Same angles, same proportions. It kind of looks identical. It's just sort of a miniature version. And I know a lot of people who have a little kid that love them. They're pretty popular sellers. You will obviously not sell nearly as many of the kids' chairs as you will sell the adult chairs, because probably for every 5 or 6 or even 10 adult chairs, you're going to sell 1 kids chair. But having the kids chairs is a really good bonus for somebody who's in the business of woodworking, because you're always going to run across a couple who just won't buy anything unless they have one for their kid too. So that's just something to think about. And fortunately, these don't take very much lumber, and they cost quite a bit less to make, and you can sell them for quite a bit less than the adult chair. I know we sell the adult chairs for between $450 and $500. Believe it or not, you can actually buy an Adirondack chair out of redwood pre-built at Home Depot for $938. I'll put a link to that so you can see it. We sell ours for between $450 and $500. I give a discount. I give $50 per chair discount if they order 4. And that's pretty much what all of my viewers who run a business selling these things do. You kind of got to give your customers a discount if they're going to buy a number of them. And but the kids chair I sell for a lot less, $250, somewhere in that range. And for a couple that's buying a set of chairs and wants to get a kids chair, that's not very much extra for them to spend for the kids chair. Kids chairs are super fast build as well, so it's kind of nice. It's there's less pieces physically to it. There's less back slats. I use the same full-size back slat, so I simply use 7 of them, I think, or 9 of them. I forget. You'll have to look. Instead of the 13 that the adult chair takes. So it's a little bit less work. I think it is 7. Okay, I can see that now. It's a little bit less work than cutting out the parts for the adult chair, especially if you're just using a jigsaw. Then it makes a big difference. I should talk about jigsaw blades, because a few people have emailed me from time to time saying, "Hey, I can't do this." Oh, no, I'm wrong. It is 9. Wow, sorry. A few people emailed me saying, you know, my blade's drifting on my jigsaws. I'm having a hard time. The truth is that's all blade. Even a really cheap jigsaw can cut perfectly straight. You just need a high-quality blade. That's where you need to invest a little bit more money. You can sometimes get a set of, say, 5 or 10 jigsaw blades for like $5. Don't get them. you can get a top-of-the-line blade like a Festool wood cutting blade that's still T-shanked, so it fits anything else you got, like a DeWalt or a Milwaukee or whatever, a Skill. It's a T-shank bit, but these blades are a lot more expensive. They're like about $6 or $7 a blade, but they're dead rigid. They don't bend, they don't flex, they don't drift, they cut fast, they're great blades. So a lot of people make the mistake of buying like these Vermont American blades or even the name brand DeWalt blades. They're terrible in comparison. Even a Bosch blade is terrible in comparison to a Festool blade. I don't know why, and nobody else can make them as strong and rigid as Festool, but Festool also makes them longer, which is nice. They make 4-inch, 5-inch, even 6-inch blades, but if you got a 4 or 5-inch blade, it cuts through 2x material a lot easier than one of the Vermont American blades that's barely cutting through it. And then with that extra rigidity makes a difference. It may be 3 times the price, but even at that, $6 for a blade, that's not that bad. They also don't break nearly as often, so you might be on one blade for 6 months before it breaks. So it's worth the investment there. I'll put a link to some blades down below if I can remember to do that. If I forget for any reason, maybe you shoot me a message and I'll make sure I get that in there. All right, so this chair is coming to a close. Like I said, these are really pretty easy to build. If we're making them all by hand, cutting them with a jigsaw, we can only build about a chair a day. If we're using bandsaw, we can probably up that to 2. If I'm using my CNC machine, we probably build about 3 to 4 chairs a day. And then these probably maybe 40% faster. And you can see what the child's chair looks like in comparison to the adult chair. It's just the same thing, just a smaller version. And here's our model for the chair. You see it fits little kids perfectly. All right, let's take a look at this next project. I'm showing you this page because something cool about this project is it's a coffee table and there's an end table associated with it, but this whole project comes out of 7 pieces of 2x4, just 7 2x4s. I designed this project. I spent a lot of time on it trying to make it as simple as physically possible. Now, you'll notice that I am using some wider wood here, but that's because I didn't have 2x4s and I had these. So my first step, the first thing I'm doing is I'm just cutting pieces out of this and I'm cutting the rest of it down to 2x4 widths in order to use for the chair. These are the tabletop slat parts that I'm cutting, which ordinarily I'd get 2 of those per 2x4. And then for the rest of it, I'm just cutting the 2x4s out of it. But you don't have to buy anything wide. You could if they didn't have 2x4s, but you just simply build the whole thing out of 7 2x4s. For some reason, I find that really cool. And I like the design a lot. It's a very popular design. Yeah, see what you think. I miter the leg pieces and give them a quick fit check to make sure they go together well. And then I'll basically trace and cut the other ones to match. We need the front and back to match, and then the 2 sides to match. And once I got one made, I just make a stop there, and I cut the other one so that they're both exactly the same. Don't forget, of course, there's a full-length video for this one, and I am putting the videos down below. And this is included in the ultimate outdoor patio furniture package that I'm going to put a link down below for as well. This is one of the rails that goes around the table on the side, below the top. So I measure, cut one perfectly, and then I just trace and cut the other ones to match. It's the best way to get these things accurate. Once that's done, I will do a quick check and make sure that they're the same, quick measurement check. And now I'm cutting the leg. I've got a slight tilt to the saw. I can't quite recall the degree angle, but it's in the plans. That's the leg. The legs kind of splay out at a small angle. And then I'm actually going to put a taper on them. So you're like making a tapered leg. And I use the tapering jig for that. You could, of course, just cut this with a circular saw. You don't have to invoke the tapering jig. You just draw it on paper and cut it with a circular saw. But that's what it's going to look like. And I do have a video on that tapering jig if you need to know how to make one of those. And here again, I'm using the router. I do think the router is really nice here. It is, of course, not required. You can sand the outer part of the legs round. You could even sand little chamfers onto them. It wouldn't be worth your time to sand great big chamfers like that. But if you do step up to a router, then you can certainly do a lot of nice things with your projects. You can make them all a tiny bit more elegant. And then we're going to cut a dado out. Now this dado can also be cut with a circular saw. I've cut many of those with a circular saw. Same with this. You can cut this with a circular saw. You'll make one cut from the top and one cut from the end and cut it right out. You've probably seen me do that in other videos. If not, I'll put a link to that in the description, how to make that happen. If you do have a table saw, You just make your table saw sled do this. Our sled is a dado sled as well as a regular sled. And we're going to test fit, make sure we cut that to the right width. If not, we can sand it a little bit, whatever is necessary to get a good, nice, tight fit. I'm going to chamfer the bottoms of these rails so that they look nice, and we're going to chamfer the tops of the slats that make up the tabletop. This little chamfer right here is extremely easy to do with sandpaper on a block. I'm going to put little spacers between the slats that make up the top. That way water can drain through, takes a little bit less wood to make the whole thing, and I think it gives it a nice look. There's all the parts cut for the coffee-sized table, and there's all the parts cut for the end table. The plans, of course, show you how to do both. And we'll just jump into assembly once we have all those parts cut. Once again, we're just going to use glue and screws for all of the joints here. And even though this leg tapers out, it doesn't matter. The rail is still just a regular old 45-degree miter cut. And then on the other side, we're going to put a pilot hole and then some screws to hold it together. These won't be seen because they're going to be hidden by this leg. By this rail that goes the other direction. If a little bit of that hole pokes out, like it happened on a couple of these, I just fill those with some wood putty that we make with redwood and glue, and I'll show you how to do that coming up. I fill all the little nail holes. Sometimes I tack it together with nails before I go in and screw it. And there's the top with the whole thing screwed together all the way around. So the rails, half of one side of all the rails is the screws are hidden. The other side they have to show in order to assemble this. So we're going to put some plugs. You can just get a piece of dowel and put it in there, no problem. Or you can just fill it with wood putty. And this is the wood putty that I use. I just grabbed some sawdust from this, some coarse and fine both, and just cover all these areas. I let that dry, and we just sand it off. Next, I'm going to put a little brace in the corners. This brace has an angle cut, so a miter cut and a bevel cut. So you'd set your saw at the bevel, and then you would draw your line at an angle, at a miter, and then cut it. It's actually not very hard to do at all with a circular saw. And then put some pilot holes, and we'll put some screws in that as well as the glue. Gives a lot of rigidity. And now we're going to sand off anywhere where we might have puttied to get a nice clean looking finish along the edges. And I'm going to sand the front edge of that too. I am putting epoxy in for these. You could probably just put Titebond. I think this is a little bit thicker. It gives me a much longer open time, which is why I like epoxy for this. It's not necessarily any stronger, but it allows the joint to stay open with before the glue sets for a good long time. Gives me a lot of time to put it together. And I put a little bit of filler in some epoxy for the end two pieces. And epoxy here again gives me time to allow this to set up. These are just miter joints. I don't have these things screwed together. We're going to be pretty delicate with the table. I think they're going to be strong anyhow. But if you expect it to undergo a lot of abuse, you could put a screw in those corners. Of course, we give everything a nice sanding when we're done. And I do want a big chamfer at the bottom. I like the look. Here again, you could actually set your circular saw at a bevel, like a 45-degree bevel, and cut that off since it's a pretty big one. Pretty easy to do. And then I made some cleats to attach the tabletop to the frame. We had the pilot holes in those before we finished. And that's basically it. This is a super simple build. But it's really elegant. I like the looks a lot. And here is the completed table, coffee table, and end table. Both exactly the same design. And I just really like that a lot. All right, we're going to jump into the next plan, and that's the final plan. It's our rocking chair. The rocking chair is, of course, included in the Ultimate Adirondack package, and it's got templates as well. One thing that's included in the package I'm not showing here that it's in development and it's nearly done is a child-size rocking chair. So it's going to kind of match the child-size chair in terms of size, but it's going to be a rocking chair. There's been a lot of requests and demands for that, and we've been working on that for almost a year now. It's in prototyping, and we should have that out probably in about 3 to 4 weeks. If you buy this package, as soon as that chair is done and released, I will send everybody who has the package a copy of those plans and a set of those templates. And you see we cut that entire piece out by hand. We sanded it, and we're going to route it. You could sand that, of course, if you needed to. And the piece is complete. So don't give up on any of these projects if all you have is a jigsaw. I guarantee you they can be done, and you can do it. If you don't have a lot of jigsaw skills, you'll have a lot before one of these projects is done. And here is all of the parts to put the rocking chair together. And so the front leg, of course, will need to be doweled onto the rocker. And the position is critically important. It has to do with the balance, but the plans and templates both show you exactly where that's located. And a doweling jig is not necessarily required. It does make things a lot easier. There are a number of ways to mark a hole to drill, and you can drill with a drill on both sides, but the doweling jig does make that easier. And once your rockers are cut out, then we're going to mark the location. We'll flip this over for the other side there. We're going to mark the location for the back cross member that supports the back legs. The position of that is also important. It needs to be in just the right spot. So what I like to do with a lot of these is I like to tack them together and then come back through after the fact with screws. It allows the pre-assembly to go really fast. We don't have to clamp it together. You don't need multiple people. It's just a quick solution. We did the same up there. We tacked that down, and now we're screwing it down after drilling it. Herein, I did not glue this because I need to take it apart later, but I would recommend you glue it. Unless you have to like flat pack it and ship it somewhere, then of course don't glue it. But assemble it once, make sure it works, take it apart, flat pack it, send it to a client across the country if you need, and they can assemble it with some glue. But if you're building it to sell whole, which is what 99% of you will do, then you really should glue this project together. And that hole and that mark there indicates where this goes. This is the back cross piece that holds the back legs. It's called the back leg support on the plans. And these are much longer than normal screws. They're a structural screw. I've got links to those in the plans, of course. And we just want to make sure it's balanced, and this is balanced nicely to where both rockers are hitting at the same time. The rocker's shaped so that it stops. It won't roll back past a certain point. And then it's going to be time to go ahead and assemble the legs and the rockers to the rest of the frame. And then I took a moment after that and I went ahead and stained everything. I had meant to do that earlier, but I didn't, so it's all stained now. And then I'm going to get an exact space here before I attach this to the upper rocker arm, or to the upper part of the leg. So I get screwed into the back. And then it's time to put the back slats on. Same technique here. You see the whiteboard there? That's just a little piece of plywood or scrap wood that I screw to the bottom of that lower back cross piece. That allows me to just set the back slats on it while I screw them into the back and keeps them all the exact same height. Not needed, but it just makes the assembly go really fast. And as soon as the assembly is done, we just take that off. I meant to mention that earlier when you saw that on one of the other chairs and I had forgotten. But that's all that's for. Just a temporary piece that's got 2 screws in the bottom to hold that there so that when we put the back slats on, they have a place to rest. And it keeps the tops all nice and even. So we'll grab these in a batch. We can tack them in with a single nail, hold them steady, and then follow that up by pre-drilling and putting some screws. So down low, they're not really spaced. They're just about touching. They're really, really close. They may touch, they may not, depends on if yours was a little thicker or not, doesn't matter. And this is the spacer that we use to determine how far the arm goes forward of the leg and how far the arm goes to the side of the leg, the inside of the leg. And then we put in some screws, typically just 1 screw on each side. That allows the arms to wiggle back and forth a little bit, which gives us the ability to put the middle back cradle in a little bit easier. A single screw, and here's the middle back cradle. So we're able to put that in easier since the arms can move more freely. Of course, these get bolted. This is a main structural component of the chair, just like the legs, for example. We just put a carriage bolt. This is a zinc carriage bolt. You can use these. I prefer galvanized, they're going to last longer. And then a washer, lock washer, and we just tighten it up until the washer buries into the wood a little bit, or the head up there buries in a little bit. And you see I'm holding it because I can feel the depth, I can feel it being pulled in. That's when I know it's done. Of course, we need these on the leg like I mentioned, because there's a lot of forces that act there when people plop down in their chair. And the bolts just make a big difference. That's the cutoff from the middle back cradle to kind of help me draw a straight line so that my screws go in a straight line. I think the very first chair I built, I was so focused on teaching people how to build it, I just guessed where each of those went all the way across, and the line was kind of up and down, and everybody didn't like that. They were all mad at me. They said, well, you went through all that trouble to make a nice chair, and your line's all crooked. The screw line's all crooked. How dare you do that? So I fixed that in subsequent builds. And simply the seat slats are next. They each get a single pilot hole and a single screw. We space those out by about 1/8 of an inch. If you need to, you can run them a little closer together. Doesn't matter. The very front seat slat's a little bit wider. It hangs over the front. Whether it hangs over 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, or half, it doesn't matter. The plans or the templates both show you exactly where to drill that hole for the wheels. And there's a link in there to show you which wheels to buy. They're scooter wheels. I think they're about 10, 12 bucks a pair. But that is the rocking chair, all complete. And the wheels make it really easy to move because it's a fairly heavy chair. But with those wheels, it's pretty effortless to move it anywhere you want. And just rock it back down onto the rockers. And that's it. I hope you guys like these projects. Like I said, there's a link to get a full set of plans. The Ultimate Outdoor Furniture Package has been in the description down below. That's what it all looks like when it's all said and done. And the plan actually includes more than just these, but these are the biggest sellers that I think you can do in spring. Thanks for watching.